All right, guys. Hello to Philadelphia. Hello to Seattle. Hello, South Carolina. Sorry for keeping you in suspense. It's been a few days since my last live. Hopefully we'll finish reading the One Big Beautiful Bill today, at least the 50-page version, right? What's up, Black Sheep? Welcome to the party. Hopefully people from TikTok and Instagram will come over to YouTube. YouTube.com/Kellerman Comedy, comedy with a K. I'm gonna get started here. Good morning, OP Collector. Okay. We are on page 43. This is part 3, preventing fraud, waste, and abuse. And I'm using a microphone for the first time here because as soon as I went to go live, this guy started blowing leaves outside. Someone's asking for a basic catch-up from the previous episodes, and the answer is no. You have to go back and watch the episodes. The whole point of me doing this, and they're still available on YouTube in the live section. You can go back and watch the previous episodes. The point of me doing this is for you to not just read or listen to quick clips, quick summaries, because that's how things get twisted. You're listening to someone else's interpretation of what it means and all that. So we are reading through it together. That's entirely the point. And then I'm thinking after we finish, which will hopefully be today, maybe in my next live I will have AI, because it'll take me a million years to do this myself. They'll pass or deny the bill by the time I would be done. I'm going to use AI to compare and contrast the 1,000-page bill and the 50-page version of the bill and see what is left out, what is changed or different or worded differently. So we'll go even deeper once we're done reading, but we'll get to that later. Today we're doing part 3, preventing fraud, waste, and abuse. So, section 112201, requiring exchange verification of eligibility for health plan. Under the current law, exchanges take steps to verify applicants' eligibility for coverage and premium tax credits. However, in some circumstances, applicants may be passively re-enrolled in coverage and receive premium tax credits without updating verification. This provision prohibits an individual from claiming the premium tax credit if the individual's eligibility related to income, enrollment, and other requirements is not actively verified annually. Seems like it's closing a loophole to me, but, what I've been doing is, if you haven't been watching, I've been using AI to ChatGPT specifically, and by the way, open to suggestions. If anybody wants me to, Google something specifically, that's why I'm doing this live. If you want me to look something up specifically or use a different whatever, I'm open to it. But we're reading through it. We're trying to understand without the help of anything, and then we're checking our understanding using AI. So only if our understanding is different do we really dig even deeper. But it seems like currently, if you once were able to prove that you deserve this tax credit, then you don't have to re-verify it, and now you do, which is just closing kind of a loophole that people were using to continue using a tax credit without actually being eligible for it. So, I asked ChatGPT to explain like I'm stupid. When you sign up for ACA, which is Obamacare, health insurance. Oh yeah, also this is all related to insurance, this particular section. The exchange checks your eligibility. It checks your income, legal status, and enrollment info. But if you stay enrolled year to year, some exchanges use passive re-enrollment. They auto-renew your coverage and tax credits even if you haven't updated your info. This can lead to situations where your income changed, but the system is still giving you the wrong amount of premium tax credit, or you might technically be ineligible, but still... Okay, so I understood this perfectly. Understood it perfectly. No more passive re-enrollment. now. That's what's part of this bill. So, policy watchdogs are like in heavy favor of this, obviously. People who forget to update their info may lose out on, okay, yeah, if you just like forget to verify yourself, maybe you will lose out instead of the becoming re-enrolled automatically. The low income or less tech savvy enrollees, and people whose life situations change frequently will be impacted the most. The too long didn't read is right now, some ACA enrollees get auto-renewed tax credits without fully updating their info. The new rule says no update, no tax credit. Eligibility must be actively verified every year when you pay your taxes. I personally think that is kind of fair. Sorry. Charlene Warham says that she hates this. Why, Charlene? You hate reading the bill? You hate what the bill says? What do you guys think? Winners are the IRS and fraud prevention. Losers are people who forget or struggle to complete yearly verification. I'm disabled and am exactly who this attacks. Charlene, I don't want to be insensitive here, but are you not able to verify when you file your taxes that you are owed the tax credit every year? And I truly am. That's an honest question. I have no idea who you are or what your disability is, and I don't want to be insensitive, but I'm curious. I want to know. All this is saying is that you don't get auto re-enrolled. And you're paying attention, so you know that you have to do this now. If this passes. But I'm curious. Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell us in the chat. She's on YouTube, by the way. If you're like, who the hell is Charlene? Yeah, she's commenting on YouTube. Thanks, Richard Miles. That's okay. I appreciate you. We're going to move on. Charlene, feel free to let me know anytime. Section 112203, eliminating limitation on recapture of advance payment of premium tax credit. Under the current law, there is a limit on the amount of excess premium tax credit certain individuals must repay if they misestimate their projected income and benefit from a more generous advance payment of the tax credit than they qualified for. This provision removes the repayment limits and requires affected individuals to reimburse the IRS for the full amount of excess tax credit received. So there was a limit and now they're removing the limit? I wonder if that's beneficial too. Okay, Charlene says, I don't know exactly. I don't have income, waiting on SSDI approval after a stroke and have difficulty typing. Gosh, yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if you're targeted by, I have a hard time thinking that they're just targeting people who have trouble filing their taxes. You know, I think that it's an effort to have taxes paid more accurately, and unfortunately that means people will have to learn how to do their taxes more accurately. And yeah, Black Sheep says you should have an aid if it's that difficult, but you know, I think that's easy to say. I don't want to assume, I never want to assume that people can afford all the help that they really need, you know what I mean? So we don't ever know what other people's situations are, right, guys? That's the whole point. That's why I provide the neutral voice. You never know what people's experiences are. It contributes to everybody, you know? Okay, so under the current law, when you apply for Obamacare, ACA, health insurance, you estimate your income for the year. Based on that estimate, you get a premium tax credit in advance to lower your monthly insurance cost. But if you guess wrong, say you make more money than expected, you might have been given too big of a tax credit. Under the current law, there's a limit to how much of that extra tax credit you have to pay back, especially if you're a low or moderate income. This protects people from getting hit with a giant surprise tax bill. Under the new rule, there's no more repayment limits. If you got more tax credit than you should have, you must pay back the entire excess amount. So yeah, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt a lot of people. But again, I don't want to call this a loophole that it's closing, but yeah, I guess a limit would probably just be a good thing, right? So that's not good. That's not good for the average. Low and moderate income families used to have repayment caps to protect them if they made a mistake. And it is a mistake, right? Because it is based on your projected. I mean, I'm sure that it's probably been abused, but it is technically supposed to, prevent you from accidentally having to pay back a huge amount if it's an honest mistake. The problem is people abuse it and they ruin it for everybody, right? Again, I don't think that this is necessarily to target the low and moderate income families. I think it's meant to target the people who take advantage of that limit, It's tough. It's a tough situation, They got to balance. There's a lot to balance. Including public opinion. Moving on, Section 112204, implementing artificial intelligence tools for purposes of reducing and recouping improper payments under Medicare. This did not exist before. This provision provides $25 million for the Secretary of Health and Human Services to contract with artificial intelligence contractors and data scientists to examine Medicare improper payments and recoup overpayments. Additionally, the Secretary is required to report to Congress on progress on decreasing the number of Medicare improper payments. Well, I thought I understood it at first. I thought it was saying that they're going to provide $25 million for the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Yeah, to use AI, right? To use these. Well, but what's the part about overpayments? They included a clause about we get our money back if we overpay. Is that really what's in the middle of that huge sentence about using AI to discover Medicare improper payments? So sometimes Medicare pays the wrong amount, either by mistake or because someone billed it incorrectly or fraudulently. These are called improper payments, and they cost the government billions of dollars every year. What's the new provision doing? This rule gives $25 million to the Secretary of Health and Human Services to hire artificial intelligence experts and data scientists, use AI tools to find Medicare overpayments, wrongful or fraudulent payments, and recover that money. The Secretary must also report to Congress on whether this is helping reduce improper payments over time. So, according to the bill, they are required to report their improper payments, like if it's helping, basically, which I think is interesting. I don't think that's normally done. I don't think it's normally in the bill that they have to report, which I think goes towards, they talk a lot about transparency and what's TikTok telling me here? Guys, social media is so weird. Why Black Sheep thinks that using AI to do this is really bad. Why? Why do you think so? I'll say this. They certainly shouldn't only use AI, right? You have to check the AI. I don't know. I mean, I understand I'm using AI right now to check my understanding, but I'm understanding it first, and then I'm using AI to check my understanding. And when it doesn't pair, I'm able to dig a little bit deeper, right? But you can't just trust AI. AI does hallucinate. It does make things up. It does confirm things that have not been confirmed. So, I don't know that this provision makes it is to contract artificial intelligence contractors. So they're hiring companies that use artificial intelligence. I mean, I have to assume that they are also checking the data. I guess I just hope they're checking the data. There's really no reason to assume they're double checking the data. They could just be like, AI said this, and so take this Medicare away from people. But also it's these things do, while they will hurt people, the mistakes hurt people, no question. I'm not downplaying that. But they also, yeah, someone says they're already doing that. I have no doubt. First of all, I bet the number of mistakes that AI makes is less than the number of human mistakes that are made every year. Second of all, if your Medicaid or Medicare gets taken away incorrectly and you are supposed to have it, you're going to be able to say, "Hey, this is a mistake. Give me my Medicare back," and they'll do it. You know what I mean? It's only so I don't think they're not just going to be like, "Well, the AI said it, so sorry, you're actually dead." I don't know if you knew this, but AI says you died and you no longer deserve Medicare, so thank you for calling, but you are dead. That's not going to happen. So the too long didn't read of section 112204 is the government is spending $25 million to hire AI experts to help find and recover Medicare overpayments and fraud. The goal is to save money and reduce waste in the system. The losers are fraudsters, careless billers, and providers facing new audits. Providers facing new audits? Why do providers facing new audits lose? More audits equals more administrative burden. False positives from AI. Here you go, Black Sheep. ChatGPT has the same concern that you do. AI is powerful but not perfect. Sometimes AI will flag a claim as suspicious even if it was correct. This forces the provider to spend time and money defending a legitimate claim. And look, I know it's going to be a pain in the ass to defend your claim against an AI, but especially in the beginning, it's going to be real easy to be like, hey, the AI must have fucked up. They're going to believe you because they're going to be getting a lot of calls saying that the AI fucked up. Black Sheep says he got fucked personally by AI? Man, see? You never know what people's experiences are. Sorry, I have this turned the wrong way. You should all go buy some merch at the fucking .news. Excuse me, the forkin .news. Okay. Moving on. Section 11205. Enforcement provisions with respect to COVID-related employee retention credits. Under the current law, assessable penalties are imposed on promoters of tax shelters or abusive transactions. One such penalty is based on aiding and abetting the understatement of tax liability if the person knows that an understatement of the tax liability of another person would result. Separately, paid tax return preparers are subject to a penalty of $500 for each failure to comply with due diligence requirements related to the filing status and amount of certain credits with respect to a taxpayer's return or claim for refund. I'm going to be honest, that paragraph confused me, but let's just see what the new provision is. This provision increases the penalty for aiding and abetting the understatement of a tax liability by a COVID employee retention tax credit promoter. The provision makes clear that the pre-enactment standard for applying the aid and abetting penalty remains unchanged despite the targeted increase in the amount of the penalty that applies solely to ERTC promoters. I'm so confused by what someone says was this bill written with AI. Yeah, that was a humdinger, as we say in the South. This section also requires a COVID ERTC promoter to comply with due diligence requirements with respect to a taxpayer's eligibility for or the amount of an ERTC and applies a $1,000 penalty for each failure to comply. Under current law, taxpayers can claim COVID-related ERTC until April 15, 2025. This section bars the IRS from issuing any additional unpaid claims unless a claim for such credit or refund was filed on or before January 31st, 2024. What? I'm gonna have to have AI just explain this to me like I'm stupid because I went cross-eyed while I was reading it. Anybody catch that? Before I too long didn't read you. Did you understand anything that I just said? No. People just saying hello on social media. Basically, save your wreck? There's a penalty for helping someone understate or cheat on their taxes, called aiding and abetting, right? Your receipts. Save your receipts, people. That's I guess the takeaway here. The COVID ERTC was a tax credit meant to help businesses keep employees during COVID. I don't think this has anything to do with receipts. But it became rampantly abused, according to ChatGPT. Tons of ERTC mills and promoters popped up telling businesses, hey, you can claim this big tax credit even if you're not eligible. And many of these were shady or outright fraudulent. What does this new rule do? Bigger penalties for ERTC promoters. So this is just for specific. Someone gave me a cowboy hat and a mustache just now on TikTok. I don't want to say you should go to TikTok, but that was hilarious. I wish you could do. Why can't you do that on YouTube? They should really add that. The best experience, obviously, is on youtube.com/KellermanComedy if you're watching down there. But let's continue here. Who benefits the most is the IRS, honest taxpayers and businesses, and legitimate tax professionals. Who loses the most is ERTC promoters, especially the fake ones, obviously. Businesses trying to file late or bogus ERTC claims, and careless tax preparers could face $1,000 fines if they don't carefully check ERTC eligibility. So tons of fraud happens around the COVID employee retention tax credit. To be clear, you are only even trying to take advantage of this tax credit if you are a business owner employing employees and trying to claim a COVID-related tax credit. If you're not doing that, this just doesn't apply to you. So the winners are IRS and honest taxpayers. The only losers are ERTC mills, shady promoters, and businesses trying to game the system. This is just closing a loophole that, we're covering shady businesses. So basically, if you're actually doing this, you can prove it and claim the tax credit still. The tax credit still exists, right? It's just making sure that people prove they actually are supposed to get it and shutting down businesses that help that are made to help businesses take advantage of this tax credit, basically. So I understood it perfectly. Thanks, AI. Section 112206, Earned Income Tax Credit Reforms. Under the current law, a taxpayer can qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit if they 1. Have earned income, 2. Have a valid Social Security number, or 3. Be a U.S. citizen or resident alien all year. 4. Not file Form 2555, or 5. I keep saying or as if it's the last one, but it's not. 5. Meet income and investment limits, and 6. File as single household, head of household, or qualifying surviving spouse, or married filing jointly. The IRS may audit an EITC claim or deny all or part of the credit if there are errors on a tax return. The most common error taxpayers claim is 1. That the child does not qualify. 2. More than one person claimed as the child. 3. The Social Security number or last names do not match. 4. The taxpayer is married but filed as single head of household. And 5. Over or under reporting income or expenses. Consequently, The IRS issues duplicative claims, and the EITC has a high rate of improper payments. So this is actually an issue, as is written, an issue with the current system. This provision establishes a phased system for the IRS to detect and manage duplicate EITC claims. Beginning in 2024, if there is a duplicate claim, the IRS will send both claimants a notice stating that the child's Social Security number was used twice. The following year, the IRS will hold refunds until October 15th and use its math error authority to correct any duplicative claims by eliminating the claimed child and processing the remainder of the claims. It's like a tongue twister. Claimants can obtain a refund if they respond to the math error notice and provide evidence of eligibility. After the initial 2 years, this section provides for a pre-certification process that will reduce erroneous payments without delaying refunds. Say that 5 times fast. Pre-certification process that will reduce erroneous payments without delaying refunds. Go for it. It's just right here. If you're on YouTube, you can see it. Let's try it out loud. The provision also creates a task force to provide the Secretary of Treasury a report on recommendations for improvement of the integrity of the administration of the EITC, the potential use of a third-party payroll and consumption data sets to verify income, and the integration of automated databases to allow horizontal verification to reduce improper payments, fraud, and abuse. Finally, this provision provides Purple Heart recipients whose Social Security disability insurance benefits were terminated due to returning to work with an additional EITC amount equivalent to 1 year of the lost disability insurance benefit. So it's giving more benefits to Purple Heart recipients? Is that? It's obviously what the last part means. What was the rest of it? Anybody remember? It was long. I know you don't. It's okay. That's why I'm here. Yeah, someone says, the quiet part says, I think the bill was written with a lot of insight from lawyers. No doubt there's a lot of legalese in here. Lots of legal speak. So, the current law is, the Earned Income Tax Credit is a valuable tax break for low to moderate income workers. It can give you thousands of dollars back even if you don't owe taxes. To claim it, you must have earned income, a valid Social Security number, and U.S. citizen, and be a U.S. citizen or resident alien all year. But there are lots of errors and fraud. People wrongly claim kids, both claim the same child, names and Social Security numbers don't match, lie about income, blah, 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 etc. You're right. Anybody do this? Anybody in my comments cheat their taxes by both parents claiming the children or something like that? They're shutting it down on you guys. What does the new rule do? So the new system to catch duplicate claims, guys. Duplicate claims. You try saying it. Duplicate claims. Wherever you are, I don't care. Say it out loud. Duplicate claims. That's a difficult one. New system to catch duplicate claims. If 2 people claim the same child, the IRS will, in 2024, send both people a notice. If you did it in 2024, you both get a notice saying the child's Social Security number was used twice. In 2025, they're going to hold the funds on those returns until October 15th. Then, using math error authority, the IRS will... What is math error authority? That's what I want to know. New question. Oh. Normally, if the IRS finds something wrong on your tax return, they have to go through a formal audit process. This takes time and gives you lots of appeal rights. But for simple and obvious errors, the IRS has something called math error authority. This allows them to automatically fix simple mistakes on your return, adjust your return or tax owed without doing a full audit. What do you think of that? What do you think about that? They might just change it for you. I don't know. I don't know about that one. On the other hand, It's probably preferable to doing a full ass audit. I don't know if you've ever been audited by the IRS, but it's not pleasant. Just going to go back to the TLDR of this. So right now, the EITC is heavily abused and has lots of errors. This rule sets up a phased system where the IRS flags duplicate claims. Duplicate claims. Nailed it. Delays refunds to check eligibility, and eventually pre-certifies eligibility to prevent fraud. Also gives special EITC help to Purple Hearts vets. Yep. So the winners are the IRS eligible taxpayers and Purple Heart owning veterans. Losers are fraudsters, careless filers, and duplicate claimants. But you're just losing a tax credit you shouldn't have gotten in the first place. So this one doesn't seem... I wouldn't call this harmful. It also, to be clear, like, doesn't benefit the rich in any way. You know, it's just... They're just trying to get the tax system. I don't know if you're aware of this, because I haven't reported on it, because it's not like some kind of current event. But our tax system's flawed here in the United States. Moving on. Section 112207. Task Force on the Termination of Direct Files. So, under the current law, the IRS may prepare and this has got to be a mistype. The IRS may prepare and misfile... Now I'm misspeaking. Under the current law, the IRS may prepare and file tax returns online for free to qualifying taxpayers in 25 participating states. This is the direct file program. I actually promoted this year. In addition, the IRS offers a free file program where a number of tax preparation and filing software industry companies provide their online tax preparation and filing for free. Yeah. I was really happy that I was able to promote something like that, because it helped a lot of people, I think. This provision terminates the current direct file program at the IRS. Oh. Moment of silence for direct file. This provision terminates the current direct file program at the IRS and establishes a public-private partnership between the IRS and private sector tax preparation services to offer free tax filing, replacing both the existing direct file and free file programs. Okay, so they're replacing it, though. It's not just going away. That's what I understand. It's not just going away. It's being replaced by something that combines the two. What do you think, Chad? Is that is that right? Right now, there are two free ways to file your taxes online. IRS Direct File, which is just filing with IRS.com, which is exactly what I promoted earlier this year. Or Free File, which is where the IRS partners with private companies like TurboTax and H&R Black, etc., that offer free versions of their tax software to qualifying taxpayers, probably low-income tax bracket. But the free file program has gotten a lot of criticism. Some companies made it hard to find or tried to upsell people to paid products. Yes, we all know. We all know that you can't just go on TurboTax and file for free, right? You got to pay for the audit protection and all the other bullshit. I don't know how many of you do your own taxes? Do I have a lot of do your own taxes people in here? So what does the new rule do? It shuts down the IRS direct file, RIP. Instead, the government will create a new public-private partnership. IRS will work with private companies. The goal is to offer free tax filing through those companies. Both the IRS direct file and current free file programs to go away, replaced by this new system. So, again, it's kind of hard to say. Taxpayers who liked IRS direct file will lose out. Consumer advocates will lose out, and low-income taxpayers may again face confusing upsell and limited access through private companies. Yeah, so it's like, in theory, it's good if the government is going to encourage or partner with these private tax filing firms to offer more free versions of its software, right? However, it's not good that they've kind of had that ability for a while, at least some of them, and the ones that have not really, they like make it seem like you have to pay. They make all, not just offers. Sometimes it looks like there's no other choice. So the winners are like TurboTax, H&R Block, and tax prep companies. And the losers are people who like free, no strings attached IRS filing. So yeah, and again, free options will still exist, but this does seem to say that the government. So ChatGPT also says that big tax companies fought really hard against direct file. I'm sure they did, of course. And I can ask it how much did direct file save taxpayers? Yeah, nothing is free. My comment section is they're saying nothing's free. Yeah. We have to pay taxes, so being free isn't even free. Working isn't even free. You have to pay to work. You work to pay to work. 140,803 taxpayers used direct file in only 12 states, and they received over $90 million in refunds and saved an estimated $5.6 million in tax prep fees. Shit. It saved a lot. Projected savings at scale. So a study from the Economic Security Project estimates that $8 billion was saved annually on tax prep fees, plus $3 billion in time costs. That's $11 billion total dollars in benefits per year once the program is fully operational. Oof. Well, so long, free tax filing. Now you have to pay for the work you did. This is America. Section 112208, postponement of tax deadlines for hostages and individuals wrongfully detained abroad. Under the current law, neither the provision on service in a combat zone nor the rules on disaster relief address persons who fail to meet a tax filing or payment deadline that arises while they are unlawfully or wrongfully detained abroad. This provision directs the IRS to disregard the time during which an applicable individual is held hostage or wrongfully detained abroad for purposes of determining whether a taxpayer filed the return, paid income tax, filed a claim for a credit or refund of any tax, or committed other acts described in Section 7508A1 within the required time frame, and for purposes to determine the amount of interest or penalty owed or amount of any credit or refund. Additionally, this section requires the Secretary of the Treasury to establish a program to allow any applicable individual to apply for a refund or abatement of any amount to the extent such amount was attributable to the time during which the taxpayer was held hostage or unlawfully detained abroad. Okay, so if I'm understanding that correctly, and help me out here, chat, before we turn to AI here. If I'm understanding that correctly, it seems like previously, if you were held hostage or unlawfully detained abroad, and you don't file your taxes, that they would understand. And now, if I'm understanding correctly, it seems like you still have to pay your taxes on time, and then you can ask for a refund on or something based on the amount of time you were held captive in another country. Am I understanding that correctly? Is that what it sounded like? It sounds like. Seems extreme for them to be like, well, you still have to pay your taxes on time. Oh, it includes if you're serving in a combat zone. Interesting. Okay. In an area, or if you're in an area hit by a natural disaster. Very interesting. The IRS already gives you extra time to file your taxes, pay your taxes, claim your refunds, avoid penalties and interest, etc. But if you're an American held hostage or wrongfully detained abroad, there is no clear rule giving you the same flexibility. So right now, you could miss deadlines through no fault of your own and still get hit with penalties and interest. Okay. So it sounds like I did misread it, or at least I looked over the fact that it was actually just not already included in the first part of the bill. In the first part of this section, I should say. Because there is currently no clear rules giving people who have been held hostage in other countries or whatever the same leniency. That just isn't in there. The new rule says if you're wrongfully detained abroad, like being hostage or prison or political prisoner, the IRS will pause the clock. Okay, so I did misread it. It's the opposite. The IRS will pause the clock on your tax deadlines while you are detained. You will not be penalized for missing deadlines while you were held. You can apply to get back any penalties or interest you were wrongly charged during that time. The Treasury must also set up a simple program so you can ask for refunds or forgiveness of tax penalties that were charged while you were detained. Okay. So that's good. So who wins is Americans who are wrongfully detained abroad, families of detainees, and public policy advocates, right? Who loses is nobody. The IRS will need to set up and run the refund abatement program, which is more work for them, but otherwise, it's good. There's basically no losers. ChatGPT's giving me the option to ask it how many Americans are currently estimated to be wrongfully detained abroad. I would like to know. I was just thinking. I was like, how many people does this really apply to, though? Only billionaires? Have any of you ever been detained abroad? And then received a penalty for not paying your taxes on time? Oh my god. What is this life, guys? What are we doing? Like, why is this part of this? The State Department and James W. Foley Foundation, which tracks these cases, estimates that at any given time, about 60 to 65 Americans are being held wrongfully or detained or as hostage abroad. 60 to 65. This section applies to 60 to 65 Americans. How many people live in the United States of America? Let's just do some quick... I know the answer, but I just want to make sure that we're all using the same numbers here. I'm not just like... Don't trust me, is what I'm saying. All right. Around 336 million. What percentage of 336 million is 60? We'll do the higher number, 65. Yeah, do the simple math for me. It's 0.000019345% of our population is who this section of the bill applies to. Why? And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not even saying that's bad. I'm just saying, like, why? Why is that part of all of this? What was it originally part of? It's now just been reduced to this one random thing in this other bill. All right, moving on to Section 112209, termination of tax-exempt status of terrorist supporting organizations. I think we could, at least at that, we could probably all get behind. Under the current law, the IRS generally only issues a letter revoking recognition of an organization's tax-exempt status after 1, conducting an examination of the organization, okay, 2, issuing a letter to the organization proposing revocation, and 3, allowing the organization to exhaust the administrative appeal rights that follow the issuance of the proposed revocation letter. This provision grants the Secretary of the Treasury authority to suspend the tax-exempt status of any tax-exempt organization that, during the 3 years prior to designation, provided more than a minor amount of material support or resources to a listed terror organization. The provision allows suspensions to be lifted only when the supported terrorist organization is delisted as a terrorist organization, but the Treasury Department's ability to suspend a tax-exempt status is subject to a robust set of procedural and due process protections, including notice requirements and an opportunity to challenge the designation. So it sounds like if you're helping terrorists, you're gonna lose this tax-exempt status. If you're like a church, do you think that? I mean, this is almost certainly going to affect foreign interested churches, maybe temples, or Jewish temples, Islamic temples. I'm assuming, because what other kind of company claims a tax exemption that might have foreign ties that could be considered, terrorist states? So right now, if the IRS wants to revoke a non-profit's tax exempt status, they'd have to do an investigation, send a proposed revocation letter, and then give them time to appeal. This new tax rule says that if a tax-exempt organization gave more than a small amount of support to a terrorist group in the last 3 years, the Treasury Secretary can immediately suspend the group's tax-exempt status. They don't have to follow any of those rules. Someone's saying Harvard. Walking Roscoe says this is going to apply to Harvard. Does Harvard have tax-exempt status? What a racket. So who benefits the most is the U.S. government, Treasury, national security agencies, and legitimate nonprofits. And who loses are nonprofits providing material to support terrorist groups, nonprofits making mistakes or acting carelessly, and tax lawyers and compliance staff. So, be careful if you're a tax-exempt business, which raise your hand in the chat if you are a tax-exempt business or own a tax-exempt business, and then tell me if you in any way support a terrorist state. I'm just kidding. Don't say that part. Don't say that part. This is live, guys, but they're watching. They're always watching. Boy, how long have I been going here? How do I even see? I have no clock. All right. Well, I'm going to go just a little bit longer then. Section 112210, increase in penalties for unauthorized disclosures of taxpayer information. Under the current law, the maximum fine for unauthorized disclosure of taxpayer information is $5,000. The maximum term of imprisonment upon conviction of a Section 7213 violation is 5 years. Additionally, under current law, a willful unauthorized disclosure involving the returns or return information of multiple taxpayers is unclear. This provision increases the specified maximum fine in IRC Section 7513 to $250,000 and the maximum term of imprisonment to 10 years. This section also clarifies that a separate violation occurs when respect to each such taxpayer whose return or return information is disclosed upon the willful unauthorized disclosure willful unauthorized? Those two things don't seem to go together. Upon the willful unauthorized disclosure involving the returns or return information of multiple taxpayers. So it's increasing the penalties for unauthorized disclosures of taxpayer information. It's punishing. But what's the willful unauthorization? That's the part that's... If you take out the willful part, it all makes sense. They're increasing the penalties for unauthorized disclosures. Under the current law, it's illegal for IRS employees or others to leak or share your tax information, obviously, without permission. It's not a leak if they have your permission, just so we're clear on our terms here. The maximum fine is $5,000. The maximum prison time is 5 years. They're just increasing that. Now the maximum fine is $250,000 and 10 years in prison, potentially. If someone leaks multiple taxpayers' info, they're now on the hook for 1 violation per person's info leaked. Ouch. Ouch. So if you leak 500 taxpayer returns before, you may be that may have been treated as 1 violation, and now it's 500 violations. Don't leak people's shit. If any of you work in tax or the government, don't leak people's shit. It's not nice. It's not good. It's not good for anybody. It doesn't help anybody. What would you even gain by doing that? Just want to hurt somebody? Don't do it. Bye, extinct. You're extinct. So right now, leaking tax info is a $5,000 fine and 5 years max. That's not a very big... I like this. Because $5,000 fine and 5 years maximum is not a heavy penalty for doxing someone's tax information. That's all your shit. That's everything. Your whole year of information. All right. This is going to be the last one I do. I had hoped that we'd finish this today, but this is just, it's all taken so long. And this one's been a little bit more fun. Sorry if the other ones have been a little more boring. You found the fun one. The last one we're doing today is Section 112211, Restriction on Regulation of Contingency Fees with Respect to Tax Returns, etc. So this did not exist before, so there was no current law. This provision restricts the Treasury Department from regulating, prohibiting, or restricting the use of contingency fees in connection with tax returns, refunds, or documentation with tax returns or refunds prepared on behalf of taxpayers. What? This last one lost me a little bit. Regulation of restriction on the regulation of contingency fees. So, what's a contingency fee? A contingency fee means you don't pay me unless I get your money. The preparer takes a percentage of your refund instead of charging a flat fee up front. Tax preparer says, I'll file your taxes return for free, but if I get you a $1,000 refund, I'll take 20% as my fee, right? That's pretty standard, I guess. I didn't know that was called contingency fee. I'm not a lawyer, guys. I'm terrible with contracts. What's the current rule? So the Treasury Department currently has the power to regulate how tax preparers charge their fees, ban or limit contingency fees if they think it leads to abuse, like inflating refund amounts just so that they can get a bigger fee, right? This provision says the Treasury cannot regulate or ban contingency fees anymore when it comes to tax returns, refunds, or refund-related documents. In plain English, if a tax preparer wants to charge no refund, no fee, they can. The Treasury can't step in and say, you can't use this model anymore, even if they're abusing it. So who benefits the most is taxpayers and refund shops who can freely offer contingency fee-based services. Oh, did you hear that? It wasn't a fart, it was my chair. Who heard it? Could you hear it? So they can freely offer contingency fee-based services without risk of being shut down by Treasury. Low-income taxpayers who can't pay up front, they can get tax help without paying up front, but it'll still cost more, of course, if they get a refund. And then commercial tax prep industry keeps a profitable business model that they often use and abuse. Who loses the most is taxpayers getting large refunds. They might pay very high fees, percentage of refund, which could be much more than a flat fee. Well, you'll still be able to choose a flat fee model, just to be clear. This doesn't eliminate flat fee models. IRS Treasury oversight loses the power to prevent abusive practices linked to contingency fees, like inflating refunds to boost prepare pay. Yeah, so this is a loophole that they are going to allow. This is a loophole. They're opening a loophole for this one. The last few were closing loopholes. This one, opening a loophole. Consumer advocates worry that vulnerable taxpayers may be taken advantage of by contingency fee marketing, because they're going to say, "Hey, you don't have to pay up front," and then they take like a huge chunk of your refund instead of just paying $50 up front or whatever, and you get that. But that's why you have to be a smart consumer, right? The too long didn't read is, this rule says Treasury can't stop tax preparers from charging the "I take a cut of your refund" fees anymore. Preparers can charge contingency fees freely. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I'm going to call it here. Subtitle D, increase in debt limit, is the next part we're going to be getting to tomorrow. So make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that you click on the little bell thing so you get a notification when I go live. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for giving a shit. Follow me in all the places, Instagram, TikTok. Join my Substack where there's always a lot more information, links, videos. There's a lot on Substack. Please go check it out. I put a lot of work into it, and have a great day.